This is the deep dive. Today, we're cracking open some really interesting notes. They're from a teaching session by Ron W Rathbun.
And the focus isn't really on, like, the student, is it?
No, not at all. It's about something universal. Understanding other people, how we interact.
Which we all do, every day, sometimes better than others.
Definitely. So our mission today is basically to pull out the useful nuggets on connecting better. And it seems like it all starts with understanding this fundamental difference in how people operate.
Exactly. These notes really zero in on that. What makes interactions click or not click?
Huh.
Rathbun talks about us coming from two main places. Our thinking head, logic, info, or our feeling heart.
Feeling heart, driven by emotion, connection.
Precisely. And it sounds simple, but he argues it really changes everything about communication.
Okay. Thinking head versus feeling heart. Let's get into that. So the notes say it's about priorities.
Yeah. What comes first for you?
Head people, he calls them. They care more about things like tasks, facts.
The what? And the heart people care more about the who, the relationships, the feelings involved.
Okay. It makes sense when you lay it out like that. But how does that actually, show up?
Well, think about a deadline at work. A thinking head type might jump straight to the plan, the steps, the logic, very task-focused.
Right. Got to get it done.
Yeah. Whereas a feeling heart person, they still want to meet the deadline, obviously, but their first thought might be, how's the team doing? Is everyone okay? Do we feel good about this? More about the group dynamic.
I see. And when those two talk?
It can feel forced, yeah. Like they're speaking different languages if they don't recognize that difference. One's pushing efficiency, the other's maybe focused on harmony.
Okay, I can totally picture that. So how do we make that smoother? The notes suggest starting with ourselves.
Exactly. Self-reflection first. Asking, am I more head or heart, generally?
Not to label yourself permanently, but just to know your default.
Yeah, know your starting point. Because once you see your own tendency, you can appreciate the other side more. The notes are pretty clear that we need both. Life needs balance.
And getting stuck in just one, it has downsides.
Yeah.
It says thinking alone can feel cold.
It can, can't it? Devoid of feeling, just pure logic. It can feel a bit distant.
Yeah.
So Rathbun suggests we need to engage the heart to warm up the experience of our life. It's about caring, about ourselves, about others.
So even in intellectual stuff, that connection, that caring matters.
Absolutely. He links it to genuine understanding, even working towards the common good of all human beings. It's quite profound.
It really is. Okay, now the notes bring up Kelee Meditation. What's that about?
Based on these notes, it's specific practice designed to help balance those two things we've been talking about, thinking and feeling.
Ah, like a tool for integration.
It mentions a lesser Kelee for thinking and a greater Kelee for feeling. The idea seems to be using the meditation to consciously harmonize them, like exercising both parts of your inner self.
Interesting. And there's an app mentioned. A Kelee meditation app for daily practice.
Yeah, seems like a practical resource they recommend for actually doing this work.
Okay, practical tools are good. Now, shifting slightly, the notes say everyone is looking to feel and experience their own life. That sounds fundamental.
It really does. That drive for, like, autonomy.
Uh-huh.
But there's a warning, too, isn't there, about trying to live through others.
Yeah, basing your whole sense of self on someone else. That leads to losing yourself, it says.
You get kind of lost in the other person's world.
But then there's this really nice positive flip side. When you have a beautiful feeling of living yourself, everyone feels it.
That ripple effect, it suggests our own genuine well-being, our authenticity actually radiates out. It helps others.
And it links purity of self with feeling better. Like being true to yourself brings peace.
That seems to be the idea. Alignment leads to contentment.
So thinking about relating to others, whether they're head or heart types, acceptance seems key. When you allow people to be themselves, they love it.
It's huge, isn't it? Just letting people be. It empowers them, letting them have their own experiences, even if they're different from ours.
And the role of a friend comes up here too, keeping communication open.
Yeah, being that safe space, non-judgmental, so someone feels they can open up.
And that line is so direct. Friends help friends, they do not criticize them.
Bam. Simple as that. Criticism just shuts things out, doesn't it?
Instantly. So acceptance and understanding create that safety.
Exactly. That's when people get real.
Okay, now the notes mentioned something else we've all experienced. Trying to talk to someone who's just not there. Mind elsewhere.
Oh, yeah. Super disconcerting, as the notes say. You feel like you're talking to a wall.
Totally. But when you learn to be present with others, you will find them being more present with you.
That reciprocity of presence, it's powerful. Like, if you offer your full attention, it's an invitation. People often respond in kind.
And it calls being present one of the most important things you can do for people.
It really elevates it, doesn't it? Beyond just polite listening.
And it connects back to our own inner state. All you have to do is be in a harmonious place in your mind, and you will help people at the highest level.
Wow. So our inner peace actually creates ripples, helps others just by us being centered.
And even deeper, the feeling you have in you that can teach people to be in themselves.
So your own grounded presence acts like a model, a guide for others.
That's how I'm reading it, which leads nicely into finding yourself. The notes are very clear here. You can't find yourself in another person, only inside yourself, in your own mind.
No external shortcuts then. It really pushes that internal journey.
And then there's this interesting distinction between the mind and the intellect.
Right. It is the mind that operates the intellect, not the other way around.
Okay, unpack that a bit. Intellect is like the processor, outside in.
Yeah, taking in data, analyzing. But the mind seems deeper. It operates from the inside out, understanding meaning.
So being in the mind is more aware than just being in the intellect, which sounds more like just existing.
Exactly, like being the driver versus just being the passenger reacting to the scenery. It implies more agency, more self-awareness.
Got it. And speaking of what's ours and what's not, the notes are blunt about responsibility. Other people's problems are their responsibility, not yours.
Yes, a very clear boundary. So easy to get sucked into fixing others, but this says, nope.
Good reminder. Then the focus shifts to the present moment, how past feelings fit in.
Yeah, it says you can only really learn from the past when you're in the present.
Not just wallowing in old feelings, but observing them from now.
Exactly. With a clear perspective, that detachment allows you to see problems as things to understand, not something to be perplexed by.
Detachment again. That seems like a recurring theme. It comes up with the fear of being alone, too.
Right, which is a common fear. But the notes distinguish being alone from being lonely.
And calls being alone beautiful.
Yeah, which is quite a reframe. It suggests solitude, time with yourself is valuable, necessary even.
For reflection, connecting inward.
It says being in mind helps you understand that difference. Alone doesn't have to mean lonely. Time alone in your mind or even out in nature can be restorative.
Finding peace in your own company. Then it contrasts people trying to find themselves versus those trying to escape themselves.
That's an interesting way to put it. Finding yourself implies looking inward. Escaping implies looking outward for distraction.
And the advice is pretty direct. If your feeling is based in you, it doesn't matter about other people. Leave them alone.
Wow. So if you're solid inside, you don't get pulled around by other stuff.
Seems like it. Have your foundation, don't meddle.
Which all seems to lead towards this idea of freedom.
Yeah, the path to freedom. It comes from living through yourself, not others, self-reliance, autonomy.
Makes sense. And a strong warning. Never move your feelings downscale for another person.
Ooh, that's important. Don't diminish your own well-being to match someone else's lower state.
Exactly. Maintain your own equilibrium. Don't sacrifice your authentic feeling. It's a crucial boundary.
And the key to this freedom, the art of detachment. Again.
There it is again. And it's linked directly to getting into your mind, moving beyond just ego or intellect.
And Kelee Meditation is mentioned again here as a path towards that.
A way to practice moving into that freer state of mind. And the app is mentioned again as a guide.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot from these notes. Understanding that thinking head versus feeling heart distinction. Balancing them.
The importance of living your own life authentically.
Right, and being present. How powerful that is for connection.
And that journey of self-discovery happens inside, not externally, taking responsibility for your own stuff.
Yeah, and finally, this path to freedom through self-reliance, detachment, getting into your mind.
It all really connects, doesn't it? Understanding yourself, understanding others, finding balance, and cultivating that inner presence and freedom.
It does. It paints a pretty coherent picture. So here's something for you, the listener, to maybe think about after this. How might things change if you consciously started noticing? Okay, am I operating from my head right now? Is this person I'm talking to coming more from their heart or vice versa?
Just bringing that awareness into your interaction.
Yeah. How might simply recognizing that perspective, thinking head or feeling heart in yourself and others, how might that actually transform how you communicate and understand each other?
That's a great question. A simple shift in awareness could change a lot.
Definitely something to consider.